Everyone, it's Ellen from Ellen Allen Voice Studio, where we do confident, awesome singing, and I'm here today to talk a little bit about breathing. So breathing is obviously very important when you sing, but I find it can be frequently misunderstood, usually due to a lack of clarity of terminology. For example, I hear a lot of people say, breathe from your diaphragm. So what does that actually mean? Well, this is a case of incorrect terminology. Because your diaphragm doesn't actually do the breathing really, your lungs do the breathing. Your lungs are up here near your heart and are protected by your rib cage, which if you think of what a skeleton looks like, are those bones that go all the way around your torso. They connect to the spine in the back and they come here and connect in the front at the sternum. So we're going to come back to the rib cage in a second, but back to the diaphragm, which does not do the breathing. Your diaphragm sits like a dome below your lungs, about, here-ish. And now here's the thing about people saying breathe from your diaphragm or take a diaphragmatic breath. The thing is that your diaphragm is always involved in breathing, all the time, whether you think about it or not. It moves down when you inhale to make room for the lungs that are filling with air, and it moves back up to its original resting position when you exhale. So really, every single breath that you ever take is a diaphragmatic breath because your diaphragm is always involved in breathing and there is no way to uninvolve it. So what else happens when you breathe? So in addition to the diaphragm moving down to make way for the expanding lungs as they fill with air, your rib cage, those bones that go all the way around your body, the rib cage also moves. So the rib cage is designed to be flexible to allow for this breathing process to happen. So when your lungs get bigger, because they're filling with air as you inhale, they need more room, so the ribs expand. They can expand up from the sternum, and they can expand out to the sides, out to the back, and out to the front, 360 degrees around your body, which is pretty cool. Now, are your ribs expanding like this with every single breath that you take? No. However, when you sing and when you're taking in more air with each breath than you would if you were just breathing normally, your ribs should move a little bit more. Many singers have been trained to think that only the belly should move when you breathe as you're singing, or perhaps just the lower ribs, like the ones kind of down here. But that's not actually the case. While your belly can move when you breathe, when you sing, the ribs are really more important, especially if you're doing a lot of intense or high or loud singing. So what we want to work on is developing flexibility in the rib cage and a range of motion that we can access when we need to. So while not every singing situation will demand the same kind of breathing, we should have the potential to use our ribs in this way without bracing or locking or setting them. So that's all well and good, you say, but how do I do this? How do you develop this flexibility, especially if you can't tell whether your ribs are moving or not as you breathe? So that's a really good question and one that I hear a lot from my students. So here are some things that you can try to start to develop this awareness. So first, before I get to any of that, just know that developing body awareness takes time and patience and practice. So what we're talking about here is becoming aware of how our bodies move and noticing movement patterns, not forcing the body through movement or manipulating it in a way that will ultimately impede your flexibility. So if you can't tell what's going on with your ribs the first few times that you do this, that's okay. Just keep at it and you'll gradually start to become more and more aware as you notice what your body is doing. Okay, so here are a few things that you can do to feel that rib cage moving. So the first one is just to kind of twist back and forth like this and see if your ribs can move without moving, your hips and like your neck and your head. So you want to see if you can move the rib cage independently of these other body parts. Keep your belly relaxed. This rotation in the ribs is a good way to start to feel the muscles, especially the muscles down the sides here that are going to move a lot when you sing. Next is to breathe, practice breathing while in different positions. So if you put your arms straight up and lean over to one side, reach one arm to the opposite side of the rib cage and take a couple breaths. So you might be able to feel a stretch along the side of the rib cage. Then lean over to the other side and do the same thing with the other arm. You can also try folding all the way forward with your arms reaching toward the floor. I'm not going to try that on camera, but I think you know what I mean. Once you're folded down there, put one hand on your lower or mid back and take a breath. You might be able to feel a stretch there. If you're feeling really adventurous and you're comfortable trying a pose like plank or downward dog or something that's going to engage the core muscles of the body, with your head and your neck relaxed in that position, breathe while you're holding that position and see if you can feel any movement of the ribs along the sides or the back. Another handy trick is to take an elastic exercise band like this one and tie it around your rib cage. If you don't have one of these, you can use a stretchy scarf or a belt or anything that has a little bit of give to it. So tie it around your ribs about here so it's got a little bit of tension but it's not too tight. The idea is to expand the band out in every direction with your breath. And because that's tightening a little around your rib cage, it's going to be easier to observe that movement. So generally, the more your rib cage can expand flexibly, the more free your breathing will be, which in turn will help to keep vocal tension to a minimum. Because if your breath is tight, that often feeds right up into your vocal muscles. So the results of a free rib cage are a bigger, freer sound when you sing that's more versatile and probably more resonant. So keep in mind that this rib cage movement stuff is just basic breathing mechanics, and how you connect your breath to your sound as you're singing is a whole other ballgame that is best done under the guidance of a teacher. Since different styles of music and aesthetic preferences will demand different things from your breath, and because every body is different, there's really no one size fits all when it comes to the specifics of breathing and how it interfaces with your sound. So that's what voice lessons are for, and I encourage you to seek that out if that is something that you would like to develop. In any case, though, I hope this was a helpful demonstration of how your rib cage can work when you breathe, and that it cleared up some things about that ever mysterious diaphragm. So follow my Instagram at Ellen Allen Voice Studio for more tips for confident, awesome singing, and I'll see you next time.